Right now, in this very moment, you're about to discover something that will shatter everything you thought you knew about why you're here. And I'm not talking about some feel-good spiritual theory. I'm talking about documented evidence that's been buried for over 12 centuries. What if I told you that before you took your first breath in this world, you sat down and carefully planned out every major experience you'd have? Your family, your struggles, even your deepest heartbreaks. Sounds impossible, right? Well, buckle up, because we're diving into the most suppressed manuscript in human history. A text so dangerous that it's been systematically erased from libraries, banned by institutions, and hidden from the masses for one simple reason. It reveals that you are far more powerful than they ever wanted you to know. Before we go any further, if this resonates with something deep inside you, hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, because what you're about to learn has the power to change not just your life, but the lives of everyone around you. Here's what they don't want you to know. 1200 years ago, a group of mystical scholars created what they called the Codex Animae, the Book of the Soul. This wasn't some religious text written to control people. This was a detailed roadmap, documenting exactly what happens to your consciousness before it enters a human body. And unlike every other spiritual teaching that asks you to believe blindly, this manuscript provides step-by-step descriptions that you can actually verify through your own inner experience. The moment you understand these 7 stages, everything clicks into place. Suddenly, your life story makes perfect sense. But here's the thing, you weren't supposed to remember any of this. The whole system depends on you feeling powerless, confused, and dependent on external authorities to tell you how to live. Think about it. How many times have you felt like you're just drifting through life, reacting to whatever gets thrown at you? How often have you wondered why certain people trigger you so intensely, or why you keep attracting the same patterns over and over again? That feeling of being lost isn't an accident. It's the direct result of having your cosmic GPS wiped clean the moment you were born. But the coordinates are still there, buried in your subconscious, waiting to be reactivated. Every single day, you walk around carrying the blueprint of your soul's mission, completely unaware that you're the architect of your own existence. And that's exactly how the power structures want it. Because the moment you remember who you really are, their whole game falls apart. See, a person who knows they chose their challenges doesn't waste time playing victim. Someone who understands they selected their family for specific soul lessons doesn't get trapped in decades of resentment. And an individual who realizes they're an eternal being having a temporary human experience doesn't bow down to fear-based manipulation. This is why the Codex Animae was buried, not because it's false, but because it's so devastatingly true that it threatens every system built on keeping you small. Right now, as you're listening to this, something inside you is stirring. That's not coincidence, that's recognition. Your soul remembers this information, even if your mind has been programmed to doubt it. And here's what's going to blow your mind. You can verify every single stage described in this ancient text through your own direct experience. You don't need to take anyone's word for it. You just need to know where to look. So let's start with stage 1, the moment your soul first received the call to incarnate. Have you ever had one of those moments where you're going about your normal day and suddenly you're hit with this overwhelming sense of longing, not for anything specific you can name, but for something more? Something that feels like home, even though you can't explain what that means. Most people dismiss this feeling. They think it's just restlessness or dissatisfaction with their current circumstances. But according to the Codex Animae, this is actually the echo of the first stage, the universal call. Here's how it works. Before any soul incarnates, the universal consciousness sends out what the manuscript describes as a harmonic invitation. Think of it like a cosmic frequency that resonates across all dimensions, reaching every soul that's ready for their next level of growth. But here's the crucial part, this call isn't a command, it's an offer. Your soul, in its completely free state, has the choice to accept or decline this invitation. And if you're hearing this message right now, it means at some point in the vast expanse of eternity, you said yes. You chose to leave the comfort of pure consciousness and dive into the messy, beautiful, challenging experience of human life. And you did it for one reason only, because your soul was ready to evolve in ways that are only possible through physical existence. But the call doesn't stop once you're born. It keeps echoing throughout your entire life, showing up in those moments when you feel inexplicably moved by beauty, when you're struck by the profound connection between all living things, or when you simply know there's more to reality than what meets the eye. The problem is, we've been conditioned to ignore these signals. We've been taught to dismiss them as daydreaming or wishful thinking. But what if I told you these moments are actually your soul trying to remind you why you're here? When you start paying attention to these calls, everything changes. You begin to make choices from a deeper place. You stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. You realize that the urge to grow, to seek meaning, to make a difference, that's not just human ambition. That's your soul remembering its purpose. Now, once your soul accepted the call, something remarkable happened. You were guided through what the ancient text describes as the most comprehensive life review imaginable. This is where most people get uncomfortable because we've been conditioned to think of judgment as punishment. But stage 2 isn't about some cosmic authority figure keeping score of your good and bad deeds. It's about consciousness expanding through complete understanding. Picture this: your soul, now committed to incarnation, experiences every single moment from every single lifetime it has ever lived. But not from its own perspective, from the perspective of every person it ever interacted with. If you helped someone, you feel their gratitude flowing through you. If you caused pain, you experience that pain as if it were your own. If you inspired someone to grow, you feel their soul expanding with joy. This isn't torture, it's the most profound education in empathy that exists. And here's what's beautiful about this process: there's no judgment, no punishment, no cosmic guilt trip. There's only understanding. Your soul reviews these experiences not to feel bad about past mistakes, but to gain complete clarity about what it wants to learn and heal in the next incarnation. This is why you sometimes meet people and instantly feel like you've known them forever. This is why certain situations trigger such intense emotional reactions in you. Your soul remembers these connections even when your conscious mind doesn't. But it's also why forgiveness is so powerful. When you truly forgive someone, including yourself, you're not just releasing present moment hurt. You're clearing karmic patterns that may have been playing out across multiple lifetimes. Think about the people in your life who push your buttons the most, the ones who seem to know exactly how to trigger your deepest insecurities. According to the Codex Animae, these are often souls you've danced with before, working through the same lessons lifetime after lifetime until you both finally get it right. And the crazy part, at the soul level, you love these people deeply. They volunteered to play the difficult roles in your life story so you could learn what you needed to learn. They're not your enemies, they're your greatest teachers. Once the life review is complete, your soul moves into stage 3, and this is where things get really interesting. You're brought before what the manuscript calls the Council of Souls. Imagine sitting in a room filled with the most loving, wise, and compassionate beings you could ever encounter. These aren't judges or authority figures. They're ancient souls who have walked similar paths, faced similar challenges, and grown through similar experiences. This council knows you better than you know yourself. They remember every incarnation you've had, every lesson you've learned, every pattern you've struggled with. And their only purpose is to help you design the most effective learning experience for your next lifetime. This is where the plan for your current life was created. Together with these wise beings, you analyzed what your soul still needed to learn. Maybe you needed to develop courage, so you chose circumstances that would require you to be brave. Maybe you needed to learn about unconditional love, so you selected family dynamics that would challenge your ability to love without conditions. Every major element of your life was discussed and agreed upon in this council. Your talents, your challenges, your relationships, even your apparent limitations, all of it was carefully chosen to maximize your soul's growth. But here's what's mind-blowing: this council is still with you. Those moments when you get a sudden flash of insight about what to do in a difficult situation, when you have a dream that seems to contain guidance, when you just know something without being able to explain how, that's your spiritual team still communicating with you. The Codex Animae explains that this connection never breaks. You can access this guidance anytime through meditation, prayer, or simply by getting quiet enough to listen. Your soul counsel is always there, always ready to help you remember your path when you've forgotten your way. After planning your learning curriculum with the council, you moved into stage 4, choosing your specific life purpose. Now, this isn't about finding your career or deciding what you want to do for work. This is about selecting the core theme that will run through your entire existence, the fundamental growth edge that your soul is ready to tackle. Some souls choose to master forgiveness by incarnating into situations where forgiveness seems impossible. Others choose to develop leadership by being born into circumstances that will require them to step up and guide others. Some souls come to heal ancestral wounds, breaking patterns that have been passed down through family lines for generations. And here's the beautiful thing: your soul never chooses a purpose that's beyond its capacity to fulfill. You were born with everything you need to accomplish what you came here to do. The talents, the insights, the inner strength, it's all already within you. But here's where most people get confused. They think their life purpose has to be something grand and obvious, like becoming a famous healer or changing the world through some public mission. But the truth is, your purpose might be as simple as learning to love yourself, or showing one person that they matter, or healing a specific relationship pattern. The magnitude of your purpose isn't measured by how many people know about it. It's measured by how deeply it transforms you and everyone your life touches. And you can find clues to your purpose by paying attention to what naturally draws you. What issues in the world make your heart ache? What activities make you lose track of time? What kinds of people do you feel called to help? These aren't random preferences, they're breadcrumbs leading you back to your soul's mission. But even more revealing are your biggest challenges. The patterns that keep showing up in your life, the fears that seem impossible to overcome, the relationships that keep triggering the same wounds. These often point directly to what you came here to master. Your greatest pain usually contains your greatest purpose, because the medicine you develop to heal yourself becomes the gift you offer to heal others. Once your purpose was clear, you moved into stage 5, the selection of your physical form and family lineage. This is probably the hardest concept for people to accept, especially if they've experienced trauma, abuse, or been born into difficult circumstances. The idea that you chose your family, your body, your socioeconomic situation, it can feel like victim blaming on a cosmic scale. But your soul doesn't think like your human ego. It doesn't choose based on comfort or ease. It chooses based on what will provide the most powerful catalyst for growth. Maybe you needed to learn about your own inner strength, so you chose a family situation that would require you to develop resilience. Maybe you needed to understand the power of self-worth, so you selected circumstances that would challenge you to love yourself despite external validation. Maybe your soul wanted to break generational patterns of addiction, violence, or emotional dysfunction, so you incarnated right into the heart of these patterns with the specific mission of healing them. Your soul saw every difficult experience not as punishment, but as opportunity, not as something happening to you, but as something you were strong enough to transform. And your parents. The Codex Animae reveals that at the soul level, your parents volunteered for their roles in your story. They agreed to provide exactly the experiences your soul needed, even if it meant playing difficult or painful parts. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, and it doesn't mean you should accept abuse or stay in toxic situations. But it does mean that every person in your life story is there for a reason, teaching you something essential about yourself. The same goes for your physical body. You chose your genetic predispositions, your physical characteristics, even your health challenges because they served your soul's learning objectives. Maybe you needed to develop compassion for others with disabilities, so you chose to experience disability yourself. Maybe you needed to learn that your worth isn't based on physical appearance, so you chose a body that would challenge societal beauty standards. When you start to see your life from this perspective, victim consciousness becomes impossible. You realize you're not a passive recipient of random circumstances, you're an active participant in a carefully orchestrated learning experience. After all these major choices were made, your soul faced the most delicate part of the entire process, stage 6, crossing through the veil of forgetfulness. This is why you don't remember any of this planning. This is why you were born without conscious access to your soul's wisdom, and it's absolutely essential that it happens this way. Think about it. If you remembered everything, how real would your human experience be? If you knew that your difficult boss was actually a soul friend helping you develop patience, would you really grow? If you knew that your financial struggles were designed to teach you trust, would you truly learn to have faith? The veil of forgetting isn't cruelty, it's compassion. It allows you to have authentic reactions, genuine emotions, and real growth. It lets you discover your own strength, develop your own wisdom, and make choices based on your emerging character rather than cosmic memory. But the veil isn't perfect. It's thin in certain places, and fragments of soul memory leak through all the time. Those moments of déjà vu, those instant connections with strangers, those dreams that feel more real than waking life. These are tears in the veil, allowing glimpses of your true nature to shine through. And as you grow spiritually, as you meditate and develop your intuition, you can actually begin to thin the veil intentionally. You can start to access deeper levels of knowing without losing the authentic human experience. This is what spiritual awakening really is, not becoming something you're not, but remembering what you've always been. Not gaining new powers, but reclaiming your original nature. Finally, we reach stage 7, the moment of birth itself, what the ancient manuscript calls the ultimate leap of faith. Picture your soul, infinite and eternal, choosing to squeeze itself into the limitations of physical form. Choosing to forget its vast wisdom and start over as a helpless infant. Choosing to experience separation, fear, pain, and loss for the sake of growth. This is perhaps the most courageous act in all of existence. You left the safety of pure consciousness and dove headfirst into the uncertainty of human life with no guarantees about how things would turn out. And you did it purely on faith. Faith that the experiences you would be worth it. Faith that the love you would give and receive would expand your soul. Faith that even the painful moments would ultimately serve your highest good. Every time you take a risk, every time you choose love over fear, every time you keep going despite uncertainty, you're echoing that original leap of faith that brought you here. But here's what's incredible. The moment you were born, you didn't lose your divine nature. You just forgot it temporarily, the spark of infinite consciousness that you are never dimmed. It just got covered over by layers of conditioning, fear, and forgetting. And now, right now, as you're listening to this, that spark is remembering itself. The very fact that this information resonates with you is proof that your soul is ready to pierce through the veil and reclaim its power. But this raises the obvious question: if this knowledge is so transformative, if it reveals our true nature as powerful, eternal beings, why has it been hidden from us for so long? The answer is uncomfortable but necessary to understand. Conscious souls are incredibly difficult to control. Imagine a world where everyone knew they chose their circumstances, where everyone understood they were eternal beings temporarily wearing human costumes, where everyone realized they were co-creators of their reality rather than victims of external forces. What would happen to systems built on fear, guilt, and powerlessness? What would happen to institutions that depend on people feeling small, limited, and dependent? Throughout history, those in power have understood something crucial: knowledge is power. But not just any knowledge. The most dangerous knowledge is self-knowledge, the realization that you are far more powerful than you've been led to believe. This is why mystery schools were created. Why ancient wisdom was encoded in symbols and hidden in metaphors. Why manuscripts like the Codex Animae were kept secret, passed down only to trusted initiates who could handle the responsibility of this awareness. Because once you know who you really are, you can't unknow it. Once you realize you're the author of your own story, you can't go back to feeling like a helpless character in someone else's narrative. The control systems we live under, whether governmental, religious, or social, all depend on maintaining the illusion of your powerlessness. They need you to believe you're small, separate, and at the mercy of external forces. But your soul knows better. Deep down, beyond all the programming and conditioning, you know you're so much more than what you've been told. And the beautiful thing is, this knowledge is starting to spread. More and more people are waking up to their true nature. The veils are thinning, the ancient wisdom is resurfacing, and there's nothing the old systems can do to stop it, because truth has its own momentum. It spreads from soul to soul, heart to heart, awakening to awakening. And once a critical mass of people remember who they really are, everything changes. So the question isn't whether this transformation will happen. The question is whether you'll be part of it. Now that you understand the 7 stages your soul went through before birth, how do you start reclaiming this lost knowledge? How do you begin tearing away the veil of forgetfulness and living from your true power? The Codex Animae provides specific practices for reawakening soul memory. And the beautiful thing is, you can start implementing these techniques immediately. First, create space for silence. The constant noise and distraction of modern life isn't accidental. It's designed to keep you from hearing the whispers of your soul. But when you regularly disconnect from external input and turn your attention inward, profound things start to happen. Even 10 minutes of daily meditation can begin to thin the veil. As you sit in stillness, you start to notice the subtle currents of consciousness that are always flowing beneath the surface of ordinary awareness. You begin to sense the vast intelligence that's always been there, waiting patiently for you to remember. Pay attention to your dreams. During sleep, your consciousness partially detaches from the density of physical existence, making it easier for soul memories to surface. Keep a dream journal. Look for recurring themes, symbols, or people who seem familiar but unknown. Some of your most important dreams aren't random neural firings, they're actual memories of your planning sessions before birth. Sometimes you'll dream of meeting with wise beings who give you guidance. Sometimes you'll visit places that feel like home but don't exist in physical reality. These aren't fantasies, they're glimpses through the veil. Follow your intuition ruthlessly. Logic has been elevated as the highest form of intelligence, but intuition is actually the voice of your soul trying to guide you back to your path. When you get sudden impulses to call someone, go somewhere, or try something new, and these impulses feel clean and clear rather than driven by fear or ego, trust them. Your soul remembers the plan you made before birth, and it's constantly trying to nudge you back toward your purpose through intuitive guidance. The more you honor these subtle promptings, the stronger they become. Look for synchronicities and meaningful coincidences. When you start aligning with your soul's purpose, the universe begins to orchestrate events in ways that seem almost magical. People appear at exactly the right moment with exactly the information you need. Opportunities open up just when you're ready for them. Books fall off shelves containing precisely the message your soul is trying to remember. These aren't coincidences, they're confirmations that you're moving in harmony with the plan you made before birth. Most importantly, start viewing your challenges as curriculum rather than punishment. Every difficult person, every painful situation, every pattern that keeps repeating in your life. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" When you shift from victim consciousness to student consciousness, everything transforms. Pain becomes purposeful, obstacles become opportunities, and the very experiences that once felt like evidence of your powerlessness become proof of your soul's wisdom in choosing exactly what you needed to grow. But remember, this isn't about bypassing real pain or pretending that harmful situations are okay. It's about finding the deeper meaning and using that understanding to create positive change. The moment you start implementing these practices, you'll notice something remarkable happening. Life stops feeling random and starts feeling meaningful. Relationships become deeper because you see the soul connections beneath surface interactions. Challenges become easier to navigate because you understand their temporary assignments rather than permanent punishments. And most importantly, you start feeling at home in your own life. That sense of being lost, of not knowing why you're here or what you're supposed to be doing, it begins to fade as you reconnect with the plan your soul made before birth. You are not an accident. You are not a victim. You are not powerless. You are an eternal being of light who chose to incarnate at this specific time, in this specific circumstances, for this specific purpose. Your soul didn't make a mistake when it chose your life. It didn't miscalculate or end up here by accident. Every single element of your existence was carefully selected to provide exactly the experiences your consciousness needed to expand. The person listening to this message right now is the same eternal being who sat in that council of souls, planning this moment. The same consciousness who chose your family, your challenges, your gifts. The same soul who courageously crossed through the veil of forgetting and took that ultimate leap of faith into human form. And deep down, beneath all the programming and conditioning, you know this is true. You can feel it resonating in the deepest part of your being. That's not belief, that's recognition, your soul remembering itself. This awareness changes everything. When you know you chose your circumstances, victim consciousness becomes impossible. When you understand that every person in your life is there for a sacred purpose, relationships become opportunities for mutual awakening. When you realize that your biggest challenges contain your greatest gifts, suffering transforms into wisdom. You stop wasting energy fighting against your life and start using that energy to fulfill the mission you came here to accomplish. You stop looking outside yourself for validation, purpose, and direction, and start trusting the inner guidance that's been there all along. The ancient text promises that when enough souls remember their true nature, when enough people awaken to their power and purpose, everything on earth will shift. Not through force or conflict, but through the natural transformation that happens when consciousness evolves. You are part of that transformation. Your awakening matters not just for your own life, but for the collective healing of humanity. Every time someone remembers who they really are, it makes it easier for others to remember too. The veils are thinning, the ancient wisdom is returning, and your soul's time of forgetting is coming to an end. The question is no longer whether you'll remember who you are. The question is how quickly you'll allow that remembering to transform your life. Your soul has been waiting lifetimes for this moment. The moment when you would finally hear this message and recognize the truth it contains. The moment when you would stop sleepwalking through your existence and start living from your authentic power. That moment is now, that person is you, that time is here, welcome home.